I get these wrong every single year, but welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my Premier League 26/27 Premier League predictions. Starting from the bottom all the way to the top, we are going to try to keep this as concise as possible. Let's get straight into it. Starting off in 20th place, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. Hull City, you made it here through a very backdoor-esque way. You deserved it because you won the final. Shout out Ollie McBurney for that. However, I genuinely see no chance, like no real reason that Hull City stay up this year. So I got them finishing in 20th place. Of course, they can finish maybe 19th or 18th. The point is, you're getting relegated. You signed one Japanese guy named Marita, who I've heard of before, but don't think he'll do enough for you guys to get over the line and be, surviving and staying in the Premier League for next season or following season. In 19th position, I have Ipswich Town, to be very honest, are not as bad as people might think they are. I think they signed Julio Enciso. I think that deal went over the line. And I think Gary O'Neill is actually not a bad manager. But Kieran McKenna was the guy that had their secret sauce. As much as he got relegated with Ipswich a couple years ago, I feel as though Ipswich actually have some decent pieces to their team, and they're a bit more battle-tested because they were in the Premier League not too long ago. I feel like that's going to help them in their journey to stay up this season. But again, I feel like the quality gap is just too wide, and therefore I don't see them being able to stay up in the Premier League. I got them in 19th, also being relegated. In 18th position, I actually have a huge surprise. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't fully contextualized this. This could go one of many, many, many ways. In 18th, I have Crystal Palace. Yes, I know this is probably going to be a shock, but I just want to throw something different in. And instead of saying all of the newly promoted teams will get relegated, which everyone does, every single video that I watch on Premier League predictions, they say the same thing. The top three teams that came up from the championship are going to get relegated again next season in the Premier League. Oh, my fault. Apologies for that. And to be fair, that's not necessarily the worst take because it feels like it's pretty predictable. However, I am going to go for Crystal Palace in 18th position. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because I do feel as though losing Glasner could be a huge bomba in terms of where they're able to finish and land and do the season. I still have guys like Ismail Assar. Even Mateta at the moment is still, at the time of recording this, is still in the middle of the transfer window. He's still there. They have, who else is there? Jeremy Pino, a player that I like really, really well. I think he's a great player as well. Adam Wharton is still there. And even JD Campbell in the back, young upcoming centre-back. He's pretty decent. They have some decent pieces, but they're playing in Europe again in the Europa League this time, not the Conference League, which fair play to them. They won, but I don't think it'll be enough for them, so I got them finishing in 18th. No more talk about the bottom three. Let's move on. Into the 17th, just surviving in the Premier League. It's Frank Lampard's Coventry. I know a lot of people have said this, but I genuinely believe this Coventry team has something up their sleeve that people aren't ready for. They play their first game away at Arsenal's home of the Premier League season, and that's going to be a huge match to watch tomorrow or today whenever you're watching this video. It's already happened maybe, but the point is that I think Coventry could really have a big surprise in them, especially in the games they play at home. I know they had a really good home record in the Championship, and I think that Lampard has learned from his mistakes. You'd think he would have, having coached at Everton in the Premier League and of course at Chelsea for two stints over his managerial career as well. So I have them 17th and 16th. Again, it's Fulham, but again, Fulham could finish a lot higher than this. I don't even know where to place them. They're a very weird team. Every single prediction video, I get them wrong. I swear, every single time I predict Fulham. Last year, I had Fulham finishing in 14th. They finished in 11th. So that's exactly my point. I wasn't too far off. I feel like they might drop off a little bit because they've lost Marco Silva. Again, another managerial change happening at this club. And I rate Arbeloa a little bit. Like I said before, I've never said it before, actually, but in my mind, I've said it before that I don't think he's a bad coach. I think that Madrid experience and definitely being a Premier League player himself formerly when he was in the Premier League with Liverpool, I think West Ham as well, will help him, give him a better understanding. But I just feel like Fulham, you signed some Madrid guys, but I'm not moved by them. There's not enough business for them to really make me think they're going to be finishing higher than where I have them in 16th position. In 15th, it's Sunderland. I think the European factor for them could really come back to haunt them and bite them. They did very, very well to get there in the end, and honestly, they kind of deserved it because they were the surprise package of last season, just coming up from the Championship. Regis Lebris, I'm a big fan. I think he's done a great job there, to be honest, better than a lot of people might give him credit for, but I just don't see it for Sunderland. They've only signed Thomas Meunier, for God's sake, this past transfer window, and that's not enough. They needed to build on what they were able to do last summer, in my opinion, or last season, in order to really go on and be higher up in the table to finish where they did last year, especially with the balancing of Europe and Premier League. I don't think people realize that, but especially for newer teams to the Premier League and newer teams to Europe like Sunderland are, it's not going to be simple for them to just adjust naturally, but it will be cool to watch Sunderland in the Europa League. I think it is for sure. So I'm looking forward to that. In 14th, we have Everton. Again, they could probably finish a bit higher, but I just feel like this David Moyes team is is one of those sides where they play good football, but they just don't get the results they're supposed to. They actually have a good core, especially offensively. I like Thierry Nobari. I think people will really get to rate him this season. I think that Tyreek George is a good player. I think that Keenan Dewsbury all had a great season last year. I think he'll continue his good form. Brennan Johnson is not the greatest, but he'll add something. He's better than Dwight McNeil, that's for sure. Who else did they sign? Hayden Hackney. I've heard of this guy before from Middlesbrough. A lot of people are raving about him in England. He must be good for a reason, so I'm going to give him some credit. And then I think overall they have a decent team. So I feel like Everton will be comfortably in the mid-table zone. Again, their ceiling's probably just about 11th, 10th. We'll see. But I think as of right now, that's why I have them. In 13th, I have Matthias Yassel, Newcastle. I got Newcastle finishing in 13th position with their new German manager who just freshly was winning the AFC Champions League, which is the Saudi League Champions League, with I think Al Hilal, I believe, or whatever, one of those Saudi teams. Forgive me, I should really know that, but top of my head, I'm not going to remember that. But they got a new coach from the Saudi League, and he's actually not that bad of a manager. He apparently took his influence from Thomas Tuchel and some other German managers like Jurgen Klopp as well, which lets me know that he might actually be a serious manager. They might actually have a real coach here. But Newcastle have been ravaged to bits. And even having them 13th, I think, is being generous. Again, a team that can finish genuinely as high as probably maybe 7th or 8th and as low as even 14th, 15th, 16th position. I think they could really fluctuate in the table. They made some decent signings. They've sometimes some guy from Alaji Bamba, I believe his name is, from Monaco. Any guy you sign from Monaco is going to be decent. The league is known for having great central midfielders. So if they can adapt to the Premier League fast enough, and he probably should, that would be a decent acquisition. But they've lost so many core pieces of Bruno G, Tonali, Gordon, their manager, obviously. I just feel like there's just so much happening. Even Trippier, who wasn't great last season, but he's a piece of what Newcastle were doing. It's going to be hard, but they have some great fullbacks. Livermento and Lewis Hall are excellent at their fit, and I think they're going to have a good season. Those two in particular, especially Lewis Hall, I think he's an excellent player. But I feel as though that this is where Newcastle's road ends. They're not going to be touching the top of the table this season. In 12th position, I have Nottingham Forest. Now, I think Forest, the only reason why I have them this high is because of the coach that coached them. I think Glasner is an exceptional manager. For me, he's one of the best coaches in the league. I would almost say, look at me. I'm literally frothing at the mouth talking about this guy. I would say that Glasner is one of the top maybe 5-6 managers in the Premier League. I really do believe that. Maybe Arteta, Alonso, I wouldn't, actually, Maresca maybe, De Zerbi for sure, and then probably Unai Emery for sure. So yeah, Arteta, Alonso, Emery, Glasner definitely in there, maybe Iraola for sure, Maresca, those guys are in there, De Zerbi in that mix. So of course you have the classic top 6 coaches, but I think Glasner's in that mix. I really think he's better than a lot of the managers in this league, and he has a decent squad. If he can keep these pieces, and he's added Diomande, who a lot of big clubs are looking at for years from Sporting, comes into this Nottingham Forest defense. I think, honestly, you play that back three with Glasner, you can expect some decent results and maybe even a higher finish than where I have them in 12th position. So fair play to Glasner. I think that Forest will have a relatively decent season. It could go wrong, but I'm going to go and keep them in 12th. In 11th place, we have Bournemouth, the Cherries. Again, one of those teams that have yet another managerial change coming in at this club, and they've lost Andoni Iraola, who I think was absolutely sensational. I need to make sure this is known. I know they got 1,000,001 draws last season, but Bournemouth last season were extremely impressive. Watching Bournemouth play football was one of the most glorious sights of the whole Premier League season. A season that I didn't even really enjoy from a neutral perspective, watching it week in, week out. But Bournemouth in particular put on a spectacle every game, no matter who they played against. And I had some really good overall performances, not just moments. I got Bournemouth in 11th. I feel as though the injury to Krupi could stifle their season at the beginning, especially, up until the point that he returns. And I think that having a new coach and having Europe as well, look at me shaking up the place, and having Europe as well, I would add, makes things slightly different for them in terms of how they go about this season. They've kept some really good players like Alex Scott. They've added, obviously, Antonio Silva from Benfica. I think they have a decent team, and Bournemouth always find a way to just be good. They sign guys that we've never heard of and recruit dudes that we don't really know much about, but we'll learn about them this season. You best be rest assured that they're going to be somewhat known at the end of the season for sure. And I think overall, they have a decent team. Ryan, I'm looking out for him. I think Ryan will have a really good season for Bournemouth as well. I expect him to really break out again from his very, very good 6-month stint from coming in from January last season. In 10th place, I have Brighton and Hove Albion. They've signed Promise David. Shout out the Canadian Donny. Hey, let's go. I'm very, very happy about that. I'm happy to see a Canadian who I know for a fact will actually get minutes and play on a week in, week out basis as a number 9. Brighton obviously have sold Danny Welbeck to Chelsea, and they brought in young promise David from Royal Union Saint-Gilloise. I think I said that well. And I believe this Promise David guy is going to be a very, very good player. I don't know about Brighton or not. I'm going to back him to do well at Brighton. Probably score at least maybe 7 or 8 Premier League goals, which honestly would be a very good season for a player who hasn't had zero prior experience of playing in Europe at this stage, playing in England and the Premier League obviously at this stage. Of course, he played in Belgium before, but I mean, he's at this top level. And I think he'll still be able to be a real menace and a threat like he was in Belgium. He'll do the same thing here for Brighton. And to be honest, Brighton are one of those teams where even if they haven't recruited names that we know of, similar to Bournemouth, they're going to have guys who are like, wow, this guy can actually ball. He might do something. Vuskovic, everyone's been raving about this Vuskovic guy from the Bundesliga. I didn't even watch him that much. But if he's this highly rated by every club and he's 19 years old going for, 45, 50 M's, he must be good. So he'll definitely add something. But they lost James Milner, they lost Danny Welbeck, and they lost some other pieces in their team. But I feel like this Brighton team will just find a way to do what they do best. You know, they're going to be a threat. They've lost Baleba. Obviously, he's on the brink of joining Man United. It hasn't happened yet, but I imagine that deal will get over the line. And I feel like they'll just still find a way to be decent. Yassine Ayari is a player I like a lot. Even Georgina Ruter, I think, is a decent player. But I think Brighton will be okay, man. I think that's why I got them in middle table. They could probably finish a bit higher, but we'll see. In 9th position, I have got Leeds United. I feel as though Leeds... Honestly, I feel like I'm just following the hype train right now because a lot of people saying Leeds are going to be good. And I kind of agree. I think Leeds have proven themselves and shown their stripes last season, what they're capable of. Signing the likes of James Trafford, a future England number 1 that many people are saying. Tarek Muharemovic from Sassuolo, from Serie A, a player that Juventus were desperately wanted to get back. I think he's part of their academy and they want to sign him back again this summer. And they couldn't. Leeds were able to bring in that Premier League money and sign him. Who else did they sign? Harry Wilson, of course, I think will be an excellent addition. If he can stay at the same level or similar level he showed the last season where he literally broke out and was like one of those like underrated ballers that FPL guys were like screaming about, oh, Harry Wilson's having a screamer, he's having a blinder again. His shot, his goal scoring ability, his ball striking's elite, blah, 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 blah. So if we can do that again, I think Leeds are going to have a good season. That's why I have them at 9th. Honestly, they could finish slightly higher. And again, one of those teams where I don't know enough about them. So I just put them here because it's based on what I'm hearing and based on what I've seen. Because they were good with Calvert-Lewin last season and with Stack and Jakob Biol and Tanaka and all these guys, bro. I feel like they'll do something again. And Okafor, another good player. I think they'll be decent. In 8th place, we have Brentford. Again, a lot of people seem to be picking up on this Brentford hype train. They know that Brentford are not going to be the same. They're going to finish 19th, 18th, or 20th. I've seen some people say Brentford will get relegated, which is just insane to me. Keith Andrews has shown he's a polished coach. I mean, going from set piece coaching to regular, head coaching, managing is completely different and a whole different skill set and task that's needed and abilities that are needed to do that role. But at Brentford, this Brentford team is just, they're never really going to die, are they? They're like a buzzing bee that have like 50 lives. Like they sign excellent, young and undiscovered talents or even players that people are just kind of hesitant about, but they always seem to hit. Brentford signings like Bournemouth, like Brighton, all three of these B teams, they always seem to sign players that just find a way to be very, very good, at least for that level, and really, really standing out at that club. I mean, they have a great core now. They have a good squad. Added Callum Wilson, who I think will add some excellent goals. Forgive me, my timer going off here. And I feel as though Brentford are going to have a good season. I rate them. I think Brentford could be even higher up in the table. I really do. I think that this is definitely where they're going to finish. Probably between 7th to 10th is where I'm seeing them. Maybe 7th to 11th is that range. Got them in 8th. In 7th position, and this is pretty difficult for me to say, because I think Aston Villa could really be a lot better than this. Yes, Villa have been pillaged the most out of basically every big Premier League team as Rodgers gone, Tielemans gone, Onana's injured, Konza's now left. Luca Digne has left. I mean, the list goes on. Martinez is not going to really be starting. I don't think so. Now that they've signed Zion Suzuki. I mean, he could be leaving too. Like, they're getting rid of so many of their core pieces. They're just disappearing left, right, and center. I said Tielemans already. They've signed some good players. I rate Manzambi very highly. I think even Garnacho, who a lot of people, the universe of football does not like. And I'm on his biggest end, really, based on what he should be doing versus what he is doing. I see the potential. I see the profile. I see what he brings to a team. But one of those players that needs to have an arm around the shoulder the whole season to really thrive, like Ten Hag did for him when he first was coming out of United. So if that can happen, I think we might see something from him this season. But the likes of Joao Gomez, I think is a good player. I rate Boubacar Kamara, who's been there for a while, but he's pretty good too. And I think this Brian Maggio guy is going to be a revelation to the league. I know he's 17 years old alone, but this kid is disgustingly good, bro. Watching him in that Super Cup final and the comps I've seen of him, he's been really, really impressive. So I have Aston Villa finishing in 7th. It's going to be a big battle between them and the team finishing just above them in 6th, which voice crack 6th, which is Spurs. I have Spurs finishing in 6th position. I feel as though Tottenham, sorry, I'm just checking my list here, but I feel as though Tottenham could really be a wild card. I think the No Europe for Tottenham and the amount of signings they've made, this is literally coming as they've signed Savinho, by the way. That's why I'm checking my phone. Savinho has just confirmed being signed. Here we go by Fabrizio Romano. And now joining for 85 million from Manchester City. I don't know where that fee or figure would come for a player like Savinho, who, let's be honest, has not done very much in his career to be anywhere near that worth of money. But a Brazilian going for that price don't even faze me no more, because Somerville went for 80 million to Saudi, bro. Like, this market is cooked. Spurs have now signed Savinho. They've signed Tonali, Mateus Fernandes, Jan-Paul Van Hecke, Andy Robertson. Who else they signed? Senesi. The list goes on, man. They've signed so many players. And they're probably going to get more. At least Marmoush might even come in, or Cody Gakpo will come into it, or Gakpi, as I call him. And I think the Spurs team, I mean, they could really do some serious work this season. I feel as though their recruitment might really favor them and get them to be over the line once and for all, where they're not just kind of surviving, but they're actually playing some real football. Forgive me, I'm putting my fan on. I'm hot. Whew, okay. All of that to be said, now we move on to the top 5. Oh, by the way, the only reason why I don't have Spurs finishing higher than this, because they really could. They really could. I think De Zerbi is an excellent coach. A manager that deserves his own credit and has proven it at Marseille, even in Sassuolo, Shakhtar, has had good stints as a manager. It's not always been about Brighton and even the end of Marseille days where things look a bit sour. I think he's shown his ability over the course of his managerial career to know that if he gets the right pieces and gets the right profiles, De Zerbi ball can look kind of good. I'm not even going to cap. So let's be honest. Yes, I have Spurs 6th, but I think things could be even better for them. Let's see. In 5th position, I have Liverpool Football Club. Now, this has been the hardest decision for me, probably of the entire list. Because for me, Liverpool are an unknown quantity. As much as you could say many of these teams are because they've changed managers, changed players, I get that. But Liverpool especially, because for me, losing Mo Salah is a lot bigger than Liverpool fans might even realize. I know Salah didn't have a great season last year. He wasn't the most extravagant in terms of his goals and assists output, and even just being the most clinical player that you've seen him be the entirety of his Liverpool career. However, I feel like losing a player like this and trying to replace the gravity, the expectation, the understanding that he's going to be able to carry this team to, winning matches and getting over the line in games, is going to be very difficult for a Rio Ingamoa, an 18, 19-year-old, whatever winger, to replicate anything that he was able to do over the last 4 or 5 years. No one's asking Rio to do this, but what I'm saying is that the responsibility would now be on his shoulders because they haven't signed anyone else to do this for them. Victor Munoz, I've never heard of this guy in my life, but young Spanish winger, apparently he's highly rated, so let's see what Liverpool's recruitment's really saying. I will say this though, Liverpool have signed a defender in Jeremy Jacquet, who I think is an excellent player. I think that's one of the best centre-back signings I've seen in a while in terms of paying that much money for a player, 70 million for this kind of a young level defender is an excellent signing. I think he actually could do really well next to Van Dijk, and Van Dijk will probably nurture him to become a very good defender. So Liverpool have a gem there. But we're going to need to see more from Wirtz, obviously, and we're going to need to see more from Isak as well. Those two things are imperative for anything serious for Liverpool to happen because they need to replace, like I said, the output that Salah was giving you. They've now lost Diaz gone the season before. Oh my goodness. Salah now gone. I'm wilding right now. Salah now gone as well. I just feel like they need to find a way to get everything to bang. Ekitike couldn't come back and look good. Maybe they signed Barcola. Maybe they don't sign Barcola. Who knows? That would kind of change things for me a little bit as well. But they need a 6. They don't have a 6. They didn't look like they're going to sign a 6. I don't rate that number 6 position. I rate Gravenberch, but I don't know how defensively solid that little zone 14 area just in front of the back line, marshalling the back line rather, is going to be for Liverpool. And I feel like this open, high intensity football era likes to play with having no solid defensive midfielders, or at least one in particular. Oh my God. Could hamper them. I gotta stop doing that. In 4th place, I hope you guys are still bearing with me. In 4th place, you can tell it's my first time doing this. In 4th place, we have Chelsea Football Club finishing in 4th. Again, Chelsea, one of those teams where I could have easily put them. I've seen some people say Chelsea are going to finish 2nd, going to finish 3rd, going to finish 4th, going to finish 5th, going to finish 6th. I've seen many people say many different things. Most pundits have Chelsea finishing in the top three, actually, from what I've seen, which I think is pretty interesting because I think this Chelsea team could really surprise some people. Maybe not surprise. I think the expectation is Chelsea is going to be good. Let's be honest. They have a great coach in Alonso. They've signed some very good players in Morgan Rogers, even Palestra, who I think will add a bit of the physicality Chelsea were missing last season, which was clear because Chelsea were getting bullied by every team that came up against them that had any physical edge to them. Chelsea would just roll over and basically either draw or lose. And mentally, and from the the immaturity side, as much as people want to clown the Welbeck and Henderson signing, these are guys that are going to give you those intangible standards and levels of professionalism that I don't think Chelsea have had since the ownership has come in. They focus strictly on signing basically throwaway players like Sterling, like Koulibaly, like Aubameyang. The list goes on of guys, Zakaria, guys you're thinking, Saul Niguez. None of these guys are going to be Premier League standard setting players where you're like, this is a professional I need to look up to and to really set my sights on following their footsteps and emulating their career. Because Henderson and Welbeck are proven players. Henderson especially, he's shouldn't play that much, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did because Chelsea's midfield options are looking kind of meaty. That's why I have them finishing fourth. But I feel like the energy and the intensity he's going to bring to the team and the levels he's going to set for the squad is something Chelsea haven't had in years. Super ill-disciplined, very naive, very immature team. They don't read game states well enough. They allow one moment of instability in a match, a moment to concede a goal, to make themselves completely lose sight of the game and lose all momentum and belief, and the match just kind of leaves them immediately. And you think with these experienced signings that would change, and I think it will too. And I think with the one game a week, like we've all said, like I've said in my reel, go check it out or whatever. You go see this on at STF Daily. It's everything. My name is everywhere. My name is the same name in every single location. But I made a video, my little short reel version of this same video, saying the exact same thing, that having the ability to play once a week for Chelsea will be massive. And I think with the squad that they've added the right pieces, Joao Pedro's fit and firing, Palmer's finally going to have some rest that he hasn't had since he's been at Chelsea. Because he's played either World Cup or Euros, not World Cup, sorry, he did not go to the World Cup. Euros or Club World Cup this whole time. And even then in his first season when he first joined Chelsea, he came at the back end of August as well. So he didn't even have a preseason at that point either. So finally he's gotten some rest. I think it will really give him some relief. But the midfield for me is the biggest question. If Enzo goes and Chelsea don't sign a replacement, it's going to get sticky. Because I'm not going to rely on Romeo Lavia to play 35, 36, 37, 38 games. And I don't want to see Reece James in midfield. I hate watching that. So if Enzo cuts and he's not replaced, it could get dark. If Enzo stays, as much as I know he doesn't want to, but if he stays and works under Xabi Alonso, I think he'll have a great season. I think, honestly, Enzo might have the best season of his Chelsea career. So, and then that might even propel Chelsea to be higher. The engine room is very important to Xabi Alonso's tactics. And regardless, Caicedo will be very good. But if they can get that midfield balance right, no matter who it is, I think Chelsea can do very well. In third place, I have Manchester United finishing in third. Now, I'm saying this on the back of knowing that they've signed Baleba and they're looking to target a left back. The fact that United are finally addressing holes in their team that they've had for literally the last 5-6 years lets me know this Ineos era, seam team, whatever, might actually be serious. Do I think they're going to be in without or on the title charge? No, not really. But I think they'll be comfortably finding their way in this top 4, top 3 position basically the whole season. I know they have Europe and now Premier League to balance. Last season they played once every week and a half, every 2 weeks to give them a huge advantage. But I do think that the acquisition of Tielemans and having Bruno Fernandes, who's already been there obviously, but that duo of the experienced leader of Fernandes and a captain from Aston Villa and Tielemans, who's also been a very, very good player in the last couple of years in the Premier League, will be a great duo. I rate Baleba. I think when he gets fit, I think he'll add United needing some steel and some legs in that midfield. And he can also play left back as well. And I feel like Šeško, whenever he's fit, could really be banging in goals for United this season. So even Rashford returning is a great look for United. They could be a team to watch in my opinion. As much people are hating on them, we'll see. The United are a very 50-50 team, but I believe that Carrick might actually continue to cook. In second place, I have their city rivals, Manchester City. So you know who I have the first, and Arsenal, obviously. And let's start with City first. I think with City, I literally just made a video on them, so make sure to go check it out once you watch this first or watch that first or whatever. I made a video talking about Maresca and literally saying how this is not going to be easy. City may not fall out of the top 4 at any point this season, but that wouldn't surprise me if they did. I have to be honest. And I have to mention that replacing the man who literally was running the greatest dynasty I think we've seen since the Fergie days with Manchester United way back then, and even then in the more recent Premier League times, in Guardiola is going to be virtually impossible to do. And I think losing Rodri at the same time, losing even guys like Stones and Bernardo Silva, who weren't amazing on the field, it doesn't matter in terms of what they did last season. Of course, they were great over their career at City, but last season they weren't that effective. It doesn't matter. These are pillars and personalities and names that you're just so used, household figures that create the furniture of this Manchester City room or house that we're talking of. And I feel like overall, Anderson should be a good signing, but who really knows? Maresca's an extremely pragmatic manager that wants to keep the ball even more than Pep does, I feel like sometimes, with less incisive penetration, because that's not really his mainstay thing. And to be honest, if you have Haaland, you can never really rat him out. That's why I have City finishing so high. I think Haaland will probably score another 25 to 30 goals at minimum, because he's just that good. Maybe Maresca nerfs him as well, the way he did with Joao Pedro, who couldn't get a shot on target for a whole month. And if that happens, City are about to get doomed. They're about to be doomed, rather. But I got them finishing second. Again, they're a very flex team. They also are another team where I'm like, I don't really know about them yet. Gotta wait and see. They were not great in the Community Shield final, but I think that's just one match. So I think things will improve for them. And in first place, yes, you guessed it. Again, I gotta be honest. I'm not even fully certain of this prediction. I know everyone else in the Premier League world and football fandom has said this. We all have Arsenal finishing first. And the only reason why I believe this is because they're the most stable and consistent team of all the big clubs. And all the teams expected to win, they have the most battle-tested, battle-ready players who have already, have experienced winning and are the most recent winners of the tournament of the competition of the Premier League, that is. And I think that will really give them an extra edge. I think Arteta is probably going to be driven for more success, and we might even watch a better footballing version of Arsenal than what we've seen over the last, let's say, 2 years, or at least last season, where it was more set pieces than inshallah and a lot of great defending that was kind of getting them over the line. Now I think we'll watch a better version. A revitalized Odegaard, who looked very good in the final against Manchester City, and the signing of guys like Bruno Guimaraes, who I rate very highly. I think Bruno G is one of my favorite players. I've said this for years. If you know me, I know you know how much I love this guy. On my podcast I used to rave about him. And the same with Christos Zolis, so I don't really know much about, but seems like a great like-for-like replacement for Trossard. So they might get some more GA from the left wing from this season onwards as well, which is great. So Arsenal are going to retain it. I think that's going to be how things end. You guys let me know in the comment section what your predictions are for this Premier League season. I'm super excited. I think this Premier League season was going to be light years better than last year's. I think it's going to be way more competition and way more true battles and true tests of like who's actually the best team. Now that City and Pep are kind of, dormant and we don't know what to expect from them, and Guardiola's finally left this league and left his stranglehold of being the greatest manager and, running the most elite, arguably the most elite English team we've seen for a while, I think this league could finally be open and interesting. So you guys let me know what you think as always. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope to make more content, at least one video a month or something like that. We'll see what the cadence is. I have to decide that in the next couple of weeks. But make sure to go follow me on all my socials at STF Daily on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube here, on YouTube Shorts, of course. Make sure to subscribe. And it's been your boy, Steven. I'll catch you guys again in the very short future. Goodbye.